Hey guys, so my name is Sarah Johns and I'm trying to create my very first Booktube video about Victober, which I'm really excited to participate in for the very first time this year. I'll go ahead and talk a little bit about it. It's basically reading books that were written during the Victorian time period, which is 1837, had to check, sorry, to 1901, during the reign of Queen Victoria, by anyone in England or Scotland or Wales or Ireland during her reign. So it's a very specific time period and specific authors. I love Victorian literature, so when I heard about this, I was very intrigued, and a lot of these books were ones that I was planning to read already, so when I heard about this, I thought I'd at least try to participate and at least try to connect with some people who are also reading Victorian literature in October. There are the three hosts for Victober. We have Katie with Books and Things. Her challenge is to read a book that equates to a favorite modern genre. We have Lucy the Reader. Her challenge is to read a Victorian diary or collection of letters. And then we have Kate Howe, who has this challenge of reading a new to you book and or short story by a favorite Victorian author. And then there's the group challenge of reading Shirley by Charlotte Brontë. When I was in high school, I tried to read all of the books by Charlotte Brontë because I love Jane Eyre. I honestly don't know if I finished Shirley or even if I tried it and just was so shocked by my young high schooler mind that it was not like Jane Eyre that I just couldn't deal with it. So at some point I might return to Shirley. At this point, I'm not planning to do the group read, but I'm very excited to hear other people's thoughts about it. And at some point I might attempt it, but I have a pretty sizable TBR as it is for Victober, so I might have to skip out on that one. So the first book, and these are mostly rereads. I've read Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde before, but my focus for this October is to read classic monster, scary, books, and I love the ones, from Victorian literature. So we're going to start with Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. I also got this book, which is actually a collection of stories, and they're not all Victorian, but I'm really excited because it's just called Classic Horror Tales. But when I looked inside, there are actually quite a few that are written by Victorian authors, and it lists the different time periods for when they were written, so I just have to go through and figure out, all right, which ones of these were actually Victorian authors. Did they live in England or the surrounding area during the Victorian time period? Because technically we have like Edgar Allan Poe, but he was American, which I'm definitely going to read some Edgar Allan Poe, but technically that's not part of Victober. So, but I am really excited because it does have some Victorian authors in here. I am planning to read or reread, I'm pretty sure I've read this before, but the Memoirs of Sherlock Holmes. This would definitely equate to, one of my favorite genres, favorite modern genres is, the mystery, and you can't beat Sherlock Holmes. I mean, we're still redoing and, rewriting and using Sherlock Holmes, in present day. I mean, he's iconic. You can't go wrong with Sherlock Holmes. So, and a good mystery for October, I feel, is always appropriate. Now, there was the group challenge, which I forgot to mention up until now, and the group challenge was to read a book that was on a previous Victober list, but that wasn't read. So I've never participated in Victober before, but this book, The Moonstone, has been on my TBR for quite a while, and I am going to try to read this. It is rather sizable. I can definitely get through it, but it also depends on how many books I really want to read during October. But let me go ahead and just read, the back. Alongside Edgar Allan Poe in America, Britain's Wilkie Collins stands as the inventor of the modern detective story. The Moonstone introduces all the ingredients: a homey English country setting and a colorfully exotic background in colonial India, the theft of a fabulous diamond from the lovely heroine, a bloody murder and a tragic suicide, a poor hero in love with a heroine but suspected of the crime, who can't remember anything about the night the jewel was stolen, a lawyer, a doctor, a sea captain, and assorted friends, relatives, and servants, all of them suspects, and most essentially a bumbling local policeman and a brilliant, if eccentric, London detective. So I'm excited to read this one, but like I said, it's definitely been on my TBR for a while, and I haven't read it, so I'm hoping to get to this one because I think that will be a great October read in Victober. Then we have Dracula, which is going to be a reread. I love Dracula. It's just, so I'm planning to reread this. I don't know if it would necessarily equate to a favorite author or a favorite genre, because it is more kind of horror-ish, which I'm such a scaredy cat. Like I can't read Stephen King books because I get scared. So I like reading stuff that's really not that scary. Personally, I don't think Dracula is that scary, but it is supposed to be a little creepy, little like, ooh, which, let's be honest, I love a little ooh, in October, but not too scary. So this is definitely going to be a fun reread for me, and I'm definitely hoping to post a lot about my reread because I love talking about this book. So then we have The Picture of Dorian Gray. Now, I think this is really funny because this is obviously a huge book. The Picture of Dorian Gray is actually a really short book. And this would definitely be a favorite author, but this is actually like a bunch of his, if you can read like a bunch of his stories, a bunch of his plays. So it's definitely not just The Picture of Dorian Gray, but I loved this cover. And I just loved that it looked so hefty, so I went ahead and I got this one because I am planning to read this partly for Victober and partly because it was chosen as a group read for one of my book clubs. So I'm excited, and I've read it before, but I'm excited to reread this. Another one, which will probably also be a reread, but definitely it's not a scary book and it's not a classic monster book, but Agnes Grey, which I think is a beautiful story, and I remember reading it and just thinking it's a really sweet romantic story, and I really want to reread it. So I'm hoping I'll get to this one, but we'll see. And then I also want to reread Wuthering Heights because it's definitely been a while. A lot of these rereads, I haven't read them since high school, and high school was, let's just say it was a while ago, all right? So you don't need to know how old I am right now. Maybe we'll get to that point in this relationship where I'm willing to share my age, but let's just say it wasn't last year, okay? So because it's been a while and people always love talking about Wuthering Heights, and a lot of the details I don't specifically remember, and I think it would just be a really great, atmospheric mood reading for, a little chilly weather October day, in front of the fireplace, sipping hot cocoa or tea or whatever. So then the last one, so I did get one that specifically addresses one of the challenges, and this is the one for the Victorian Diary or collection of letters. Now, I know it looks like a children's book, but bear with me. I was just searching. I was like, all right, I'll read some letters, and this one came up, and I love Oscar Wilde. He was just brilliant and so funny. So I really wanted to read some of his letters, and I thought this would maybe be more letters, and it's really more a biography, but it references and has huge sections of his letters. So I'm thinking that I'll definitely be able to read this. And I know, like I said, I know it looks like a children's book. It's not a children's book. When I requested it from the library, it did not look like this. So I'm not a child, but I am excited to read maybe some specific letters that were written by him and a little bit more about his life, because I find him fascinating. And as a former theater person, I loved his plays. They were just so funny. So yeah, that's my Victober. And I have a lot of other books I'm also planning to read for October, either spooky, scary, witchy, Frankenstein, which technically was before the Victorian time period, but it's just, which is a brilliant book. Yeah, and there's lots of other ones I'm planning to read, but we'll see how many I can get through. So those are my Victober reads. If you have any questions or you want to talk to me about any of these books, I'd love to share your thoughts and talk to you about your Victober reads. So thanks for listening.